I really do feel that a strong foundation leads to focus and direction. This is the part where it's not about not putting that goal on paper. How do I put it on paper? How do I start whatever it is to be able to make that goal accomplishable for yourself?
A lot of the things that we're putting down as resolutions, we got to make them happen. They're not just going to magically appear. You got to put the work in. So the foundation to me starts with, I really do believe I can do this. I'm worthy of this. And that's where the New Year's resolutions, they come on top of that. You and I are kind of similar. You may even be more good-hearted than me. I feel like you. Well,
but in our longing hearts, we're all the same.
Mutual respect and
Yes.
a boundary might have been crossed that you, right?
That's
So
correct.
just an example
That's a
of,
good example.
it is a great example. I appreciate that for
Yeah.
giving me the example to even work with.
Let's be the change we want to see.
I've never seen differences negative. I've always been attracted to and intrigued by it. But we're looking for, how are we similar? How are we the same? How can we all just get along?
We are links in a chain. Unimportant.
Hey, welcome to Working It Out Across Generations. This is season 4, and I am one of your co-hosts, Dr. Lynn.
And I'm Justin.
And we are here to talk about all things conflict. Now, for those of you who are new to us, we talk about all of the everyday as well as the big conflicts, and we try to give you some suggestions about how you might be able to engage in conversations about them or actually resolve them. And today, we have a great topic for you, but I'm going to turn it over to Justin.
Yeah, so today's topic is actually very fitting with the fact that, again, if you've been here for a while, you know that we usually shoot in a different format, we usually shoot in a different setting. But now, as part of our, New Year changes to the show, we
Yes.
decided to, get a new spot and get a new way of doing things. And so that's part of, the reason we've been away. But it's so good to be back. So good to be back engaging with all of you, having some really good conversations. And I think today is very fitting for the first episode back, as we're going to be talking about New Year's resolutions. Are they even a thing anymore? Do they even matter? Do people even still do them, right? And like, what does that even look like? And I think, this is just such a natural topic that comes
Yep.
up around this time, right?
Especially because we're in February, and I have some really interesting
Yeah.
statistics to share with you about New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, and I just think, it makes a whole lot of sense. And, I think everyone does it to a certain degree,
Mhm.
right? Like, even if it was more formal one day, ago, right? Where, like, maybe you have a journal for it or something like that. And,
Yeah.
you build out a new plan and all these things, right? But I think, there has been like a decline as far as like maybe the seriousness that people give it.
You think so?
Maybe yeah, for sure. I mean, I know we'll get to the generational stuff. I think my generation for sure, definitely is way more kind of move with the wind, flowy. They have certain goals that they want to meet, but it's not exactly kind of like, make or break for a lot of us. And so I think, just it's a new year. We wanted to bring that as our first conversation. And yeah, I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be in this studio. We have some great help
Tell us what you
behind
think
the
of our
scenes.
new
Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're really excited to, have this new format. And so let's just get right into it.
Yeah. So this is always interesting for me. So I'm gonna ask us a question for both of us,
Sure.
right? Have you ever made New Year's resolutions, Justin?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Many a time. It's never
You
been
never
like,
shared them with me.
I don't think I needed to. I think it's a very private thing. I
Okay.
don't think we need to go see, I think that's like a social media thing or whatever. Like people thinking, we got to share everything with each other. Like, no, that's not, I don't think so. I think for resolutions, we want to keep that, as private as possible. But I absolutely have. And, I absolutely have succeeded on a few resolutions before. And I've also failed at keeping up very early, with certain resolutions too, which I think a lot of people can relate to. So, what about you?
Yeah, coming up and even through adulthood, it was always like this big thing, especially around losing weight. Like, I think that's the number one thing is that people make resolutions about or getting rid of some bad habit, whether it may not be food, it could be drinking or whatever,
Yeah, that's true.
partying, that kind of thing. But yes, and it got to be really depressing after a while because that just was never how I lost weight, right? Was to make a New Year's resolution. But what's really interesting for me is what I said, well, how am I measuring up amongst other people? And so when I Googled, I found that 80 to 94% of people actually do not keep their New Year's resolution, and 64% of us break them by the third week in January. Stunning. I just knew they were going to say like March or something, but it's January that people.
That makes a lot of sense, dude. It does.
And it is unbelievable to me that we just, something that is a tradition, something that we keep going on and we bring our kids up in, make some new, that we cannot even keep for a full month. So for me, I don't even know how long I kept New Year's resolutions. I know I would make them. I haven't made New Year's resolutions in probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And I'm glad. I don't really understand. I get it, start of the year, New Year, but it's not my thing. So no more. I don't do them anymore.
Yeah, I don't do them anymore either. Again, speaking for me at least, like I'm way more, go with the wind, like take life as it comes,
Yeah, you are.
adjust on the fly, like be, flexible, be durable in the hits you can take and just how you move forward. And I really think this conversation is important because it brings up further topics like how to reduce burnout, right? Like how to really set realistic goals for yourself. That just make it easier for you to at least, if not achieve one day, step up to the plate each day a little bit more willing, right? A little bit more giving of yourself. And so I think for my generation, I could say the same about us in the masses. I really do feel that we are, just very much these flexible, adjustable, put me where you need me kind of, role players in this whole scheme of life. Simply because we've been hit with a lot of different things, we've been hit with a lot of changes as well. And so I think that's kind of forced our hand to become more, being able to work on the fly, work in different kinds of environments, situations, circumstances, whether it be personal that are, negative or just whatever's going on in life. And so I don't know exactly when we started to veer off from, I guess, like, formally sitting down with ourselves and doing that. I know that, we do set goals for ourselves, right? But I don't
But
think
do you all put them on social media at all? Like New Year's resolution? You said yours for personal, but it's just, I don't know. For me, for generations that are used to putting like all of their business out there, I'm just surprised that New Year's resolutions would be something that is getting less and less popular.
Well, there's definitely like content on that. You know what I mean? Like people are obviously putting out stuff, at the beginning of the year, like lock in, bro. Like, I'm at the gym. Where are you? You know what I mean? Like get this right, get that right. And that's definitely like, a content thing that, makes a lot of sense to drive traffic to your page and all these different things. But I don't think those same creators are out here exactly saying like, I struggle with this. And this is something that I'm going to put in place to help me try to work on this as far as like New Year's time. There's people who make lifestyle content and all that stuff. So you're probably going to see stuff like that and messages like that consistently if they're doing lifestyle stuff. They're showing you the ups and downs of life. But I don't think us as a whole are like very like, even
Into
with
it.
showing their everyday, they're not like willingly trying to tell you like, oh, this is something I've like struggled with since I was a kid, and like,
Yeah.
I want to put something, to real use and
Well,
effect.
it's interesting because I think for my generation, a lot of the New Year's resolutions, well, first of all, we didn't have anywhere like social media to put them.
Yeah,
So a lot of it was saying it to each other. And then this whole thing of writing them down and keeping me accountable. I don't know. I kind of always found it like phony.
yeah,
I felt
yeah.
like you're doing it because it's New Year's.
Hmm.
Well, I have to be honest. I am not a New Year's Eve person either. Like I've never understood I understand the concept of the holiday, but
Yeah,
I've never
for
understood
sure.
why we have to bring it in drinking. I'm not saying I didn't when I was younger. I just thought I'm just like I don't get how we celebrate the New
Yeah,
Year.
I mean,
I don't get it, and so for me, how we tend to celebrate it and New Year's resolutions don't tend to go
yeah,
along.
I hear that.
Now, granted, I also have grown up with parents that took us to church all the time. We took y'all to New Year's Eves. We used to go to. Yeah, I felt the same way when my
That was
parents
that
took
was a
me.
force, bro.
We used to go to
A
New Year's Eve
force.
church services.
Lord.
And so I could see that going
Yeah,
along
for
with
sure.
resolutions, but I still don't feel like it was something that was so important to me or our generation. I feel like it was just one of those things you go along to get along. Everybody else does it, so I'm gonna do it too, or you should do it too, or it was something that you taught. It was like something you can use as a way to have a conversation with someone. So you got any New
Okay,
Year's
word.
resolution, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really think it was serious. And as stunned as I am by the statistics of how many people break them, I have to say that I don't feel like New Year's Eve resolutions for my generation were ever those serious things because I don't remember people coming back to, so how you doing with
Yeah.
that? Right? Whatever your New Year's resolution was, or calling you up and keeping you accountable. I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I was gonna ask specifically what some of the like societal pressure
Mm,
differences were when it
mm-hmm.
came to this
Right?
generation following. For us, if you're putting it on social media and you have a following, right? Like people are going to be watching
Yeah.
that and they're going to be commenting on that, right? So like, I love how you said wait, like that's definitely like, the big one that you see
Yep.
on social media, right?
Yep.
Everyone in the gym, lock in, bro, especially when it's winter, you know what I mean? Winter arc, all that stuff, which, that's cool. There's a place for that, if that's what's landing for you. And, I know that pressure, like that can make or break a
Yeah.
lot of people,
Mm.
from if not just accomplishing that goal, you don't know how much further that could
Right.
like take someone's mind, right? And
Right.
so back then it's interesting to hear you say that because I thought there would have been a little bit more societal pressure to like keep up with
Yeah.
like the things you're saying because even though you may not have that access
Mm-hmm.
24/7, it's like you're more likely to still like see that person if that makes
Yeah,
sense like
that's true.
like on
Yeah.
social media even though we could live in New York City, right? Like I could the chances of me running into you are
Right.
actually very low, but the
Right.
chances of me talking to you in some way shape or form through a platform are very high.
Right.
So like I figured back then it's like you have more chance to see these people and they might be like, oh well, what happened?
I think that was really only when I was a child, when I was
Okay.
growing up. I don't, or teen, whatever. I don't remember adults pressuring me. But I think it depends on what you picked. That's why I said weight was
Yeah,
the
that's
big
true,
thing,
that's
right?
true.
So people did become food police if they saw you eat. If they
Yeah,
like, let's say you
what
work
happened to
with
your
people,
diet? Like,
right?
yeah,
Right? Yes. Oh, yeah. What
that's
happened to
so,
your
yeah, yeah,
diet?
that's
That kind of thing.
ridiculous.
But to me, someone who's had the struggle around weight my whole life, to me that was just like everyday questions. Everyday policing for me was somebody saying, "Oh, what happened to the diet? Oh, what are you eating? What are you putting in your mouth?" So New Year's resolution didn't necessarily put that extra pressure on me, and I also think too that because some, like you go on a diet, like, so I'm still picking weight, like, so you go on a diet, it may be just you, but when you talk about New Year's resolutions, everybody's making them, so nobody really wants to hold you accountable because they're not holding themselves
Yeah.
accountable. So I think it was less serious as a New Year's resolution
Yeah.
coming up for folks. Adults are good. We're good at asking you questions and bugging you about stuff that they wanted you to change or you said you wanted to change. But New Year's resolutions weren't one of the things that they were bugging us about. So,
Yeah.
in any case,
That is really interesting. That is really interesting. You know, I just think life back then, I think, was a little bit more linear, in some ways.
in what way? What do you mean?
Maybe just like the way in which, I guess, adults or like people were going about it, it seemed like this is what you do at this time or by or have this accomplished by this time.
Right.
Like if you do this, then it equals this. And if this is the life you want, it's like a very easy path. Like if not easy, like at least the steps towards the goals that you were trying to achieve. It seemed way more like,
Right.
straightforward. It seemed way more like, I guess maybe linear is not the way, but I guess limited in the way in which like you could achieve a goal or the goals in which that you actually put forth on yourself that are, I guess, seen as important to society to work
Right.
on, right? Whereas now, as I'm saying, just around, being flexible, being able to work on the fly, I think there's just so many different ways to do things now that there's not this one or two or even, just five recipes for
Right.
success.
Yeah. Well, we would love to know what you all are doing with your New Year's resolutions because now it's February, right? And so, how many of you have broken them already? According to the statistics, it's a high amount of us.
That's a high number,
It is
bro.
a high.
That's a really high number,
It's
bro.
like 8 to 10% of people actually like go all the way
Yeah,
through
that's
with
tough.
it. That is really a low.
And shout out to
number
you
of us.
people. We're not downing anybody and we're not overly praising anybody, but we really feel both sides, right? There's some things that, I think it's not a matter of don't set the goal. It's simply how do we set it so that fit for you,
Right.
we can get there, right? And however long it takes, right? I think everyone's committed.
Right.
It's just a matter of, tapping that nerve.
Well, I think let's talk about like some of the reasons why people might not keep them. Like number one, I think sometimes New Year's Eve goals are frivolous. Um, Maybe not frivolous is not the word, but it's not the kind of thing that you really look at and say, in this point in my life, this is really what I want to make sure I take on this year. I think that's a different mindset uh, as opposed to, yeah, let me list off some of the things that I'm gonna resolve that I'm not gonna do. Just setting them too high is another thing. We have big expectations for one another, and I think we thank your generation and social media for that because then you see these people that you think are overnight sensations,
True. That's
and
very
and
true.
then they're making big money, or they're showing you that they make big money, right? Because they are showing themselves living these grand lives. And so I think that when you set a New Year's resolution, you may have very high expectations for
Yeah.
yourself that just aren't achievable even in a year.
Mhm.
And then sometimes look, change is hard.
Yeah, I agree. For anyone to adjust to.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think, taking in just the factors that like these things take time, right? You're not always going to be in the right mental space to attack that certain thing, right? It really is just about, putting certain stilts in place to deal with some of those adjustments that's going to come naturally in a year. I mean, so much change can happen in a year,
That's right.
and so much change can happen in a month's time, right? And I think, to a degree, we definitely all in some way struggle with that, and it's simply about how do we, just stand a little bit firmer when things are just a little bit rocky,
Well,
or not going the way we want.
And not being hard on yourself, because change is hard, particularly when you are first beginning,
Yeah.
right? It is just not an easy thing. And so I think that people don't really like hard. People don't like things when they're very hard for them. So it's easier to just kind of brush it off. And if people aren't sharing their New Year's resolutions with anybody, then who's to know that you broke,
Yeah.
right?
That's real.
Who's to know that you broke it?
That's
So
real. And I think we need a little bit more of that privacy nowadays. Like,
yeah.
not everybody needs to know every little thing about how things are going and things like that, right? Just leave that for you and your journal or whatever you're writing at, your spirit.
Hmm.
I mean, I think there's a very spiritual asks, not
Right.
only of ourselves but also the world to kind of orientate itself to support the world that you're trying to build for yourself. And so I think there's a certain level of scarcity that we want to keep with that, and
Hmm.
that's just how I think about it. But we want to get into just, we always leave you with a few things just to think about, some
Hmm.
positives and, maybe not some negatives, but some approaches you could take towards, you know, solving this issue a little bit better for
If
yourself,
you
however
want
that
to,
looks.
if you,
Yeah.
you know.
Or addressing it, whatever that looks like. And I think the first pro that I would say to New Year's resolutions that I thought of was simply the timing. I think the timing of
Mm,
them,
mm,
it's just prime time, uh, motivational hours. You know what I mean, right? I think everyone naturally, there's something in the body that just goes into a reflective mode, thinking about the
mm,
year that you just had, thinking about some of the changes that you want for the next year. And I think that there's a certain level of excitement that comes with thinking towards the future, even if that
uh-huh.
future is like New Year's Eve going into New Year's Day,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Right. It could be a very limited excitement, but I think the timing is a really cool thing to capitalize off of. So if you get that right, then I think that lays a good foundation for the rest.
That you said something interesting, that you feel like there's something within us that when we're starting a new year that we start to get reflective, and that's interesting to me. I mean, I think that could be right, and I wonder if that is actually universal, that we start to think about, or whether we're just pushed by guilt and shame that others put on us to that next year has got to be better. I think there are a lot of things in the culture that submit to that. Like, okay, this was a bad year. Next year's going to be better. It's going to come in with a bang. And I'm going to tell you that I think it just depends on, as you said, the timing. So if you're really thinking about what I want to do in this year that is coming up, then it could be easier for you to hold on to those resolutions. Or, to be honest, you could just make the timing whenever you feel like making the
Yeah,
timing.
true.
And I think you might be more successful if it's your own timing.
hmm I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. Divine timing, your own timing. I like that a lot. Yeah. So next, what I was thinking, I really do feel that a strong foundation leads to focus and direction,
Okay.
right? I believe that this is the part where it's not about not putting that goal on paper, right? It's about
Hmm.
simply how do I phrase it? How do I put it on paper? How do I start thinking about just the ways in which for me I'm going to have to stretch or learn a new thing, right? Whatever it is, to be able to make that goal accomplishable for yourself, right? I believe that yes, everything happens in our own timing, but I also believe we have our own systems, right? Our own clocks, our own circumstances from life, our own financial situations, our own mental struggles, all of these different things that will play a role in the timing in which these things come into your life. And so the better the foundation, I believe, the better that you're able to simply allocate your energy. It'll be able to go to the right
Mm.
places at the right time, right? So it's not about not losing weight, right? It's about how do I get 5 pounds off me, as opposed to thinking 20 in this 1 month,
Right.
right? Which can be possible, right? But if you're someone who
Not
maybe struggles with that or struggles with diet, all these different things, right? It's making sure you're training your brain to give that cadence to yourself
hmm
to build that muscle, which will lead to lifting higher weight. And so I just really think a strong foundation is really, the stilts in the water, when things are really getting rocky. So
Yeah, I like that. I think that foundation is important, and I think that the setting for overachievement is detrimental, but I also feel like you've got to believe in yourself. I
mhm,
think that that's a foundation
for sure.
that's really important, and you've got to be doing it for yourself. Not because someone else is making you
I love that.
miserable
Yeah.
about that,
Yeah.
but that this is genuinely something that you want to see happen this year or make happen, because a lot of the things that we're trying to put that we're putting down as resolutions, we got to make them happen. They're
Mhm.
not just going to magically appear, even though again it may look like that's the way it happens
Yeah.
for some people. You got to put the work in. So the foundation to me starts with, I really do believe I can do this, I'm worthy of this. And that's where the New Year's resolutions, they come on top of that.
Yeah, I love that. And I also am, a big drawing board guy. Like I'm a
hmm
big write it down kind of guy. I'm a big mantra guy, right? So, you have to kind of train your brain in that area too to, keep saying those things to yourself, especially when you're not feeling it, right? Especially when you kind of have to at times fake it till you make it, just to trick your brain into getting you into that mode. Right. But even when things get rocky or when things come up, right, to see it written down somewhere sometimes really, really helps. And so I
It's
think
worth writing.
as a foundation, right, just something to return to when things get tough. That's really what I mean by a foundation leads to focus and an allocation of energy.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about that. Yeah.
Well, you remember I used to hang things all over all over the
Yep.
wall,
For sure.
not just your pictures,
No,
but
it was like sayings and like
yeah, I used to write
quotes.
scriptures and quotes.
I
I
hang them up in my room now. I have
yeah,
multiple things in my room.
I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
I think that it really is visual. A lot of us are visual. I mean, we're audio as well. But I think the visual reminder, because there's so much going on today, to grasp your attention, that if you don't grab your own attention, you're lost out there
Mhm.
in of what everybody else is doing and saying. So to remind yourself, to write it down, I think that that is critical for people. And, people do vision boards. I had someone do one for me this year, and it's gorgeous. It's wonderful. Have I got it up yet? No, but. Oh gosh, I hope she doesn't see this episode. Andrea, I love you. It's beautiful. I'm gonna get it up. I'm gonna carry it around. I promise you. But again, that just goes along with, to me, because that was a beginning of the year. That was a New Year's thing. I don't know whether it is that I have a thing against it within me, or it's just never been my thing, so it doesn't stick like that. But people, whatever your thing is, I think a visual of it is pretty important.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think lastly, as to the pros to resolutions, I really do just think goal setting is exciting. I personally get an excitement around goal setting. I believe that there's a negative connotation to it in a certain way due to, I guess, the ways in which you're going to have to stretch yourself that
Right.
a lot of people initially feel is like, well, why do I want to do that? Like, why would I want to stretch myself? Right. And that's again a total valid initial reaction, right? And then I think the more that you're able to train yourself to get over that feeling or to at least address that feeling better, quicker, whatever, I think that it just returns back to the fact that accomplishing a goal, setting a goal is fun and exciting, and then accomplishing it is just like a whole other wave of motivation that will trickle into other areas of your life. So I really do just think it's a really exciting thing to do, really, really fun thing to do. It's even better when you accomplish something, and that stretch is a part of
There's the thing.
growth.
There's the thing. It's better when you accomplish it. I personally have books and books and journals and journals and journals. And the most depressing thing, y'all, is when I go through them and go, I ain't do that. I never got there. That never happened. I think that again, just that whole thing, goal setting, but reasonable goals, because it can be very exciting, but it's very depressing when you absolutely cannot look at that sheet and say, boy, I checked off a lot of these.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's get to the cons of it, right? That being one of them. That definitely being one of
These are
them.
tough,
Don't
man.
go back and
Yeah,
look.
it's tough. It's tough. It is.
It is. It's not an easy thing, but if that's the thing, but here's the thing. For me, the cons are number one is that it creates inner conflict. It's so hard sometimes to look at what you were so excited and gung ho about and then realize that you're no longer there for whatever the reasons are. And then it creates this thing within you. We're such a shame and blame
Oh my
society,
gosh, it's
right? So it
ridiculous. Yeah.
creates this shame within you, and then you don't want to do it anymore. And if you do it again during the next year, it's probably because of the pressure.
Yeah, I think, we are our own worst critics, right? So the better that you're able to control that voice in your head,
Yeah.
right, and get back to, that motivated feeling, that living in the truth, right? Because sometimes how we feel is not always what's
Everything.
happening and what's going on, right? Like, the mind can really play some real
That's right.
tricks on us, and so it is one of those things where you do want to let it, have its place and let it roam and do its thing and take you where it needs to take you. But it can lead to dark roads. And so I think we see that all too often. And it's more of how do we build that muscle to keep us in that positive, creative, motivated, and also living in the truth kind of mind frame, and I think the main truth when it comes to this topic is that we can all do what we set our mind to. I think that's the main truth here, right? It's really just how do we set our mind to it? How do we come up with the best plan of action to make it happen?
Yeah. Well, number two is the pressure, right? That the con is that the pressures come from somewhere else, which really leads me to, as your mom, wanting to ask that question. Can you remember if at any point in your life that these New Year's resolutions came from what you thought was pressure from your parents as to what they wanted to see?
Absolutely. I'm
Okay.
not gonna get into all that right now, but absolutely. And I'm not gonna say like you guys like were these people who were like, I need this by this
Right.
time, and when you're
Right.
this age, and when you're this age, then I'll reward you with it. Like
Yeah.
you were not like that at all. But I
Right.
definitely think there were, certain like seeds planted to, you know, make me want to work harder in certain areas. Also based off your guys' reaction to
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when we did accomplish certain things. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a mixed bag for sure, but I'm also my worst critic, so it's totally not
Right.
one sided in either direction.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I would say.
I had a feeling the question came up to me as we were sitting here talking, because I think about my own self, right? Just how critical people were of me coming up, especially in my household, that I don't know that I can remember a lot of New Year's resolutions, but I'm certain that the ideas did not really come from me, that they came from the ideas put in my head that were criticisms of me that I really beat myself up over, wanting to change them. And so New Year's resolutions was like the easy way to say, okay, so New Year, I'm going to put that on the list. But I definitely think that pressure from other people is a reason why people don't want to, or maybe shouldn't. I mean, hey, we can get rid of New Year's resolutions all we want, as far as I'm concerned. I think I would rather see people pick a time when they really are serious about what they want to see for themselves different, even though the freshness of a new year is exciting. I think that can be exciting, but I do think that you don't want to do it with pressure, and that may be why a lot of people don't necessarily like them or keep them. Yeah. And then for me, number three is kind of like, hey, it's not just a new year, it's a new, it's like decade, like when are we gonna stop doing the same old things? Like I think that people see so much change. Technology has shifted us into orbit almost, really. And I think that some things become old hat and some things should become old hat. And I think that for some people, New Year's resolutions can be one of those things. Like, why are we still doing this? So they may have set them or gone along to get along, but they really never took them seriously and really don't need to take them seriously. Uh
Yeah, I mean, I know. Yeah, speaking of old hats, right? You got a whole lot of old hats still running a lot of new stuff and in charge of the future, right? So I agree.
Is that for me? Is that for
No,
me?
it's not
Oh.
for. Are you the president? Are you like
Oh,
a
oh,
member of Congress? Are you like
oh,
no?
okay.
It's like you're like I just think that you're absolutely right. We're stuck in a lot of ways, and I think that the only way we move forward is definitely trying new things. Like I'm all for trying. There are so
Right.
many people out there who try to clown people for trying new things or bringing you on their journey of trying new things, and I think how do we get to a new place, a new
Mm.
understanding, a new
Mhm.
love, going from judging to love if we're just
Yeah.
continuing to do the same stuff. It's
Yeah.
that simple. We can't get to where we want to go if we keep doing the same stuff
Yeah.
and stay in the same mind frame
Yeah.
and have the same kinds of ideas or imagery around what success or power or whatever looks like. So
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like I have not ever, not ever, in the last 10 years, I have not had a conversation with anybody in my generation about New Year's resolutions.
yeah.
I think we may have all given up on that. I think we just.
I think everyone's just sweeping them in front of their
I
own
mean,
doorstep.
and especially now with so much change, every day there's something to rock your world. I think that it's enough to make you fall off your resolutions if you ever put them in place to begin with. But I really just thought about that. I have not heard that phrase or that question asked of me in a good 20 years of my peers. Like, what do you, and I certainly have never, I never even asked it to begin with. If I asked it, it's because somebody asked me and I'm like, okay, I'll be polite. What are yours? Right. But I really feel like it may be something, if your generation isn't picking it up and really running with it, there may be a time where that no longer is what we do, or if it is, it's not the phrase we use it, or we don't do it at top of the year. We just kind of welcome in the year and expect and hope that there'll be great changes, but we set our own goals for ourselves and we work toward that without having to tell people, put it on blast, broadcast it out. We just work quietly on our own for it.
Yeah, I like that. This is a good first episode back. I'm excited to be
Yeah.
back. I'm
Yeah.
excited to be talking with all of you, picking
And
your brain, y'all picking ours.
and I hope that if anybody, I hope anybody who has already dropped their New Year's resolution, I hope you don't feel guilty. We're like releasing you, we're releasing you from that. If you're part of the 80 to 90 something percent who's already said to heck with it, we're releasing you from that. It's okay. And if you're part of that 8 to 10% who's actually going to make it to the end of the year, I think that's great too.
Yeah, we all got time. If you're here, you got time. So that's what I would say. And y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. You know what this means to us. Every like, every follow, every subscription. If you want to check us out, please check us out on pretty much every platform you can think of. We got YouTube, we got Facebook, LinkedIn, Apple TV, LG TV, Roku, all working it out across generations. And if you want to contact us directly to send any sort of topics you'd want to talk about, any sort of love, any sort of comments, any sort of feedback, also let us know what you think about the setup. That'd be really great.
Yeah.
Check us out at Working It Out Across
the
Generations.
generation.
The Generations.
Yes.
What's the email?
Working it out across the generations at e360tv.com.
Thank you. And yes, you can also check us out on e360tv.com.
Yes, correct.
The Trajectory channel. Shout out everyone over there. Guys, you know what we say. Conflict is here to teach you something about yourself.
Yep.
So go out there and find out what that is. I'm Justin.
Hey, and I'm Dr. Lynn. And as always, it was great to be here.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Bye.